Hello, everybody. My name is Steven Galzari. I'm a part of Blockchain at San Diego Club, and I'm also currently working in the NEAR Growth and Transparency Report. Today, I'm going to be presenting the 9th session of the NEAR web series, DAOs on NEAR. The NEAR web series is organized by Blockchain Acceleration Foundation and a number of clubs all over the world. So let's get started with this presentation and contents. So starting off with the table of contents. So we will start with what a DAO is, the definition of the decentralized autonomous organization, how are they compared to traditional organizations, what are the benefits of decentralization. Of course, it is important to know what's the history behind the DAOs, what was the initial idea behind them, and how do we get to the state of DAO that we have currently. After that, we're going to discuss the types of DAOs that exist, because DAOs have been in the ecosystem for a while, and therefore they can be used in many ways. We will talk about some of them, and I will also show some projects that there exist. Then I will just show you how to build DAO NEAR using Astro, and talk a little bit about how one can grow their DAO. I won't tell you how to grow like a super successful DAO, because it's really complicated and it requires a lot of effort, but I can just tell you like what to consider when trying to do that. And finally, today we have a special guest, the founder of Astro, the NEAR's DAO launching platform, Jordan Gray. He will talk about the DAOs and DAO incubator and like the DAOs in general on NEAR. That's what I want to say. So let's move on to the definition of DAO. So what exactly is a DAO? So the modern definition of DAO tells us that it is an internet native entity with no central management that is regulated by a set of automatically enforced rules on blockchain. A DAO could be either a group of people on Discord or Telegram that have 100 NEAR to their disposal, or it could be a group of people with thousands of NEAR, and there could be like thousands of participants in this DAO. DAOs involve political, economic, and social components, and we can say that it is sort of a new way for digital coordination, and we can say that it's sort of a digital government because of the political and social aspects. DAOs are built on a democratic principle that every member's voice can be heard, and it also tries to distribute resources accordingly to make a DAO a better place with its own vibes and goals. Moving on to the breaking down of the acronym of DAO, the first word is decentralized, and decentralization can be described in two ways. So first of all, it is architectural decentralization. What do we talk about when we mention architectural decentralization is on top of what is the DAO built. So in our case, we're talking about DAOs in NEAR, and NEAR is a new sharded blockchain, a new blockchain that is built on sharding. Well, also it has validators that are making the network decentralized. So we can say that there exists an architectural decentralization if you build a DAO on NEAR. Political decentralization means that initially, when every project is built, it is usually built by some people, like some group of people that have the same thoughts on the project that they're supposed to build and the organization that they want to build. It can also be decentralized in the, it should also be decentralized in the voting process. So it is for creators and members to choose the level of decentralization they want to have. So some DAOs operate with a flat management structure, while others retain an element of centralization. So if you create a DAO on Astro, you will have an immutable and complex voting structure that decentralizes cooperation through council member voting. Finally, we have logical centralization, and it is one of the important components in a DAO, because the DAO should be centralized on some one collaboration goal. So like it would be actually ineffective for a DAO to do everything, like collecting NFTs, or maybe trying to help other people with their projects. and trying to make a non-profit organization. So there should be some sort of specialization if the DAO wants to be successful. Or when it grows up really big, then it can actually specialize in different things. Next word is autonomous. This means that there should be no external influence, and only DAO members can decide what to do next within this organization. The DAOs should be free from human interference. This means that the DAO token holders can submit proposals to suggest government reforms, and once a consensus is reached, resolutions are executed. But like, it also be autonomous in a way. And of course, it's incentivized growth. So the DAO helps its members to communicate on directives. The final word is organization, and it's pretty understandable as far as I understand. Like, we all know what an organization is in some way. So it is like having a central unification and having a rule-based environment. So there should be some rules regarding fund management, and there should be some rules through smart contracts in order for it to be like an organization with rules. Next, we will move on to the core benefits of decentralization. So first of all, we should understand that DAO are mostly online, and therefore they reduce border restrictions. For example, here on the map, we have Bob and Alice. So Bob is in the northern part of America, while Alice is somewhere in Europe. So imagine if they're trying to build something together, and if they're trying to do this as a legal traditional business, then it would be extremely difficult, if not impossible, due to legal reasons. And by using crypto and by coordinating online, these people can collaborate with each other much more easily, and it makes allocation of human capital much better. Next great thing about DAOs is that every voice in the DAO is heard. So here we can also give an example of a cashier in some store. Like, imagine we have some store, and it is organized in a DAO way. So it's decentralized. So if a cashier wants to communicate to somebody else, they can just submit a proposal, and everybody else can just see what they're proposing. And if this proposal makes the DAO better, then it will be voted, and everybody will agree or disagree. In this case, they will agree because they want to make the DAO better. But if we had a traditional organization where there is a hierarchy, then there would be no way for the members from the lowest, there would be no way for cashiers to somehow communicate with people from the top. So, for example, these cashiers would like to make their life easier, while at the same moment increase the revenue for the company, but they would not be able to communicate with the people that are on the top. So this makes it worse in a way. Finally, alignment of incentives. And this means that members are encouraged to build and propose, because everybody in the DAO wants to make it a better place, because they feel their connection to it much more significantly than in traditional organizations. And of course, no single point of failure. So this means that if some person leaves a DAO, then there will be others who will continue building it. And there will be no such an occurrence when somebody just leaves and everything breaks down, if the DAO is actually decentralized. When we compare DAOs to traditional organizations, we can see the following differences. So as I mentioned, traditional organizations usually have hierarchical governance system, whereas in DAOs, it is more communal. So we discussed the benefits of communal way of governance like right now. So won't be stressing on that too much. Then the assets. The traditional organizations have centralized banks, while DAOs have crypto. So this might be a problem, like the crypto assets can be a problem if the market crashes. However, the DAO can effectively manage their assets by moving to more stable coins, or just stable coins in general. In trust organizations, the assets being in centralized banks attracts a problem of a single point of failure. So for example, if a bank just disappears, then all the funds are, well, there are some ways how to get your funds back, but like it just makes it much harder in a way. So that's like the problem that exists if you have a centralized system of assets. Safety is secured by the legal laws in traditional organizations, and it involves people, and this involvement of people makes the system more expensive and complex. In DAOs, the safety is provided by blockchain smart contracts, and if the smart contracts are written really good and they have no significant bugs, then it makes it super secure and safe to use. And this is something that's worth consideration when trying to build your organization. Finally, transparency. So if we take an example of some company like Apple, you would, if you are not working there, there's no way you would know what they're working on right now, like exactly what projects are they going to launch and how they move their assets around. Well, in the DAOs, usually DAOs are open source, which means that everybody can look through what they're doing. They can look at the bounties, at the grants, at the proposals, members, and etc. And this makes it better in a way, so like people can just actually connect the DAOs much more than through traditional organizations. And this open source idea came from the crypto world in general, that it is built on the idea of openness and transparency. Moving on to the history of DAO. So here we can see like the plan that we're going to cover. So like the definition, the first DAO and the first failure, the DAO frameworks that appeared in 2018, and the 2020 appearance of protocol DAOs. And starting out with the definition, it was given by Vitalik Buterin in May of the year 2014. I think May, yeah, it's written on the slide. In the May 6th, on the May 6th of 2014. In this Ethereum Foundation blog post, he focuses on what distinguishes DAOs from other organizations. So then, back in 2014, he believed that a core difference of DAO from other types of organizations is that it has an autonomous intelligence of its own, while it is differentiable from complete AI by the presence of humans. So DAOs equal to automation in the center and human at the edges. Another important distinction of a DAO is the presence of capital, which can be allocated through the voting process and automated. Next was the DAO hack, and launched on 30th of April and in 2016. This was an instant success. The project raised 150 million within 2 weeks after launch, and the goal of this DAO was to be an investor-directed venture capital firm. Basically, members of the DAO were voting for the next projects to invest into. After 2 months, however, due to the bug in a function of split DAO that was inside this the DAO project, $60 million were drained. This bug can be described in a way that when you're trying to split DAO, you can actually do that infinite amount of times before the previous split DAO, before the previous split DAO function ended. And so this resulted in the infinite amount of money drained. So they were able to drain 60 million using that bug. And this first major step in a DAO world could put across over the whole young Ethereum ecosystem, since the project involved about 14% of all Ether circulating at that time. And this resulted in a hard fork of Ethereum, in which all lost funds were returned to investors, and another Ethereum blockchain, which was the Ethereum Classic. And they both exist right now, the Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, to this day. And this incident was very important in several ways. So primarily, people understood that debugging in smart contracts is super important. And secondly, the community that wanted the blockchain to remain as it is without any changes, like the Ethereum Classic, was able to separate and just move on with the classic blockchain that there existed. After this incident, the Sphere waited for a response that would ensure that no major hacks would happen again, and that all functions are working properly. So this response was the DAO frameworks, and they started to appear in 2018. The main purpose of DAO frameworks is to make a user-friendly experience so that users are able to create their own DAOs without having to worry about the technical aspects of them and to focus solely on the semantic content of their organizations. In the presentation example, we have Aragon and DAO Stack and OpenLow, and these are the frameworks that help us to build DAOs on Ethereum. And I decided to include them because they were created in 2018. But like when we're talking about NEAR, an example of DAO frameworks would be Astro and Sputnik DAO. They're going to be mentioned a little bit later, but just like to understand the history of presenting these projects and organizations. Next is the protocol DAOs, and they appeared in the DeFi summer of 2020 when this period of time gave us a number of projects that involved protocol DAOs. So the main idea behind this type of DAO is to let the community members to vote for the next steps that are going to be implemented on the given protocol. To implement this idea, protocol DAOs started using tokens and distributed them to the community members. So what do members of the community actually do in these DAOs? Projects commonly vote on how to distribute tokens and opening the doors to liquidity mining or yield farming, fair launches, and everything in between. So for instance, Uniswap, like here in the example, in order to decentralize itself, issued 150 million tokens that were distributed to about 13,000 wallets. In order for the next decision in a DAO to be made, at least 40 million uni must be voting in favor to legitimize the vote. So it makes like the project itself more decentralized and closer to the community, which makes it much closer to the whole philosophy of blockchain in general. We have protocol DAOs on Ethereum here also in the presentation. So examples of the NEAR ecosystem would be Refinance or Decentralbank. And Decentralbank is like one of the recent ones, and the DAO controls the recent USN token that is like the algorithm stablecoin on NEAR. Okay, now when we understand the main context behind DAOs, how they like appeared and how they came to the stage that we have right now, let's discuss the types of DAOs that there exist. So we have mentioned the DAO frameworks and protocol DAOs. What are the other use cases of them? And the first example is the grants DAOs. So grants DAOs are used to give sort of a green light to promising new projects to the crypto ecosystem and support the development of existing participants. So grant DAOs, they're using, so what are grant DAOs doing? So community donates their funds, and then basing on community's votes, capital is allocated. They fund projects and individual researchers dedicated to the advancement of the blockchain. And this includes initiatives to improve infrastructure, as well as cultural building projects that iterate upon the lore of a global scale, and just to like make the blockchain better in general. So example of grant DAOs on NEAR would be Proximity. And as we can see on the slide, they issued 350 million DeFi grants, $350 million in DeFi, and they're supporting the DeFi on NEAR. Recently, Proximity issued a grant to the DAO that governs USN and algorithmic stablecoins. Next type of DAOs is venture DAOs, and we can also call them investment DAOs. This type of DAO focuses on generating revenue. It is similar to grants DAO in the way that they're trying to make the ecosystem better. And the key thing behind these DAOs is that they allow members to invest in projects at their early stages due to the large amount of capital that they have. An example of investment DAO NEAR is Move Capital, and Move Capital exists to support founders and developers launching really good products on top of NEAR protocol. It is an investment platform for early stage projects looking for financial support, mentorship, and guidance in how to build Web3 projects. Like how to build Web3 projects in general. And service DAOs. Service DAOs provide talent to the projects by allocating intellectual resources from one DAO to another. So the next type of DAO is service DAOs, and the main idea behind this type of DAO is that it provides talent to other projects by allocating intellectual capital from one DAO to another. They create working groups that help other Web3 projects to thrive. An example of service DAO is Orange DAO, that exists to support founders who are building the future of the crypto ecosystem. And they distribute wealth, knowledge, experience to a broader group of people. Another example is Rebaked, and their Pioneers program is a reserve launchpad that leverages independent knowledge, and it works to design and launch and scale Web3 projects. Next type of DAO is the social DAOs. And the main idea behind this type of DAO is that internet is the best place to find people to build projects together. And it focuses on social capital rather than financial. And its main mission is to show that the internet is the best place to find people with similar interests. For example, NEAR Fans is created by a group of builders and founders, investors, and artists and designers in order to build something new. So they mostly focus on building projects that will last for a long time. One of the projects that they have built is Awesome NEAR, and it is a website which contains all of the main projects on NEAR from different spheres like DeFi, DAO, NFT, and dApps. Yeah, another example is the SailGP, which is super interesting. So SailGP will make an experiment where the SailGP team DAO will be a community project where DAO members will, through proposals, have say athlete selection, team management, commercialization options, as well as overall team strategy and operations. And it's really interesting in some ways. So like, it's a project that's gonna be it's gonna be a team, an athlete team that will be governed by the community. So that's interesting in a way. Next type of DAOs is collector DAOs, and these DAOs focus on investing into NFT projects at their earliest stages in order to earn some money. So for instance, 1512 DAO invests in NFT collections during the development and launch phase and assists with promotions in the media space. Flamingo DAO aims to support purchase and collect and potentially tokenize important pieces of the ecosystem within the NFT space. So Billionaire Bull Club is doing approximately the same thing. Next type of DAOs is social media and news DAOs. Social media and news DAOs. So social media DAOs are built opposing to traditional ones to solve the problems of traditional social media platforms. So for instance, Myriad, it is still in the beta test, but it has a working product, and it's really promising. So for instance, the way we're recognized with personalized ads, which it can be particularly annoying. So Myriad is trying to solve that problem. Besides, people are paid for their content through the Myriad token that is distributed by users. So when you're pressing the like button or maybe reposting, then the creators are getting this token, and it costs money, so they're earning in some way. Next type of DAOs is the news DAOs that I included here, and an example is the NEAR Weekly. It posts news according to the votes proposed by the community, and it's really a good way to sort of like create the news platform that is interesting for all the community, because like people are proposing what to post about. And finally, the nonprofit DAOs. This type of DAO collects crypto donations from all over the world to provide humanitarian help to those who are in need. For example, one of the recent initiatives that was provided by Marmaji DAO was raising funds for Maxime, a 10-year-old child diagnosed with a cancer that begins in the brain and or the spinal cord. The Marmaji Foundation raised funds to help Maxime's family with his relocating, lodging, and medical treatment. So even though Marmaji DAO is not completely a nonprofit DAO, it is a great organization that often helps those who are in need, and it doesn't seek profit when trying to do that. Another type of DAO, another DAO presented here is the Unchained DAO, and this fund is an example of a pure nonprofit organization. The purpose of it is to help Ukrainians impacted by the war, and the reason behind creating this DAO is that most of the nonprofit organizations lack transparency, and blockchains allow funds to be publicly shown. And the organization has raised almost $10 million to this day and donated about 9.6, something like that. So they're really doing a great job with that. So here I have built a somewhat like overview of DAOs on NEAR. Here are some of the DAOs that we discussed. So here we have like the frameworks, the social DAOs, and other types. Of course, this is not like all the DAOs that we have on NEAR. There are much more. And about like how, okay, so there's much more DAOs. So for example, on this slide, we can see the number of weekly active DAOs. And right now it is about 120 DAOs, and that's a lot. None of them are super active and and doing some significant things, but like still there is a lot of people that are joining the community, and this is really great. And also we can see the leaderboards where like the most active DAOs that exist on Astro. And actually you can access this data using the DAO stats website. So as we can see, like the most popular right now and the most active is the News DAO. The Marmaji is on the third place that I had discussed today too also. So they're like both really popular among the Astro ecosystem. So how to actually build a DAO in NEAR? And here we should discuss the Astro ecosystem. So on the bottom, we have Sputnik, which is the smart contract platform that it allows us to build something on top of it. So Sputnik has flexible voting, grants and bounties, and it also allows us to create and collect NFTs through its smart contracts. Astro is a UI and middleware that like provides the better interface for our users, and it can also connect some middleware that is presented on the left. So like Commonwealth.im is the governance middleware. The Moonbase is the tool that allows the linking Astro to Discord, and Roki.2 is a great tool to stream finance. Finally, there's the DAO Incubator, and this part of Astro ecosystem focuses mostly on people and solely on people, and helps community to grow and design DAOs. So if you have some idea on if you have some idea on what DAO you want to create, and it's real, and you think that it's really good, then you can just go and apply for the grant, and the people from DAO Incubator will help you to build it. And now we will move on to the Astro tutorial. So right now I'm going to create the DAO on a testnet. So like right now I just logged into my testnet account, and here we just can create a new DAO. So session DAO 9.2, I'll just do it like that because I have already created the other one. The purpose of this DAO is to show you how to build a DAO. Here we can add the legal status of a DAO, and if you don't have one, then you can just skip the step, and then you can link some social. So for example, if you have a website for your DAO, then you can add it here. After that, you can add some members. So like you just click here and type some like satoshi.testnet, but I tested it and actually there's no Satoshi, I guess. Maybe it is, but for some reason it didn't work for me. The next step is choosing what the members of a DAO can do. So if you want it to be more centralized and like let the council members, then you can remove all these like functions. But if you want to be like super decentralized, then you can just leave it all like that. I would suggest just removing these buttons because there can be some like trolls and hackers that disrupt your DAO working. So that's the thing to consider here. Then there's the voting permission. So it's like pretty similar too. And finally, the next step, here I should add an avatar. It's just my avatar in Telegram. And then we just click create new DAO, approve, and the new DAO should be created. Just wait a little bit for the transaction to approve. And there we go. It was pretty easy to create, so nothing hard, I guess. And here we can see like the DAO funds that there are right now. So it's $33.5 in the DAO funds. And let's look at some real example that we have. So here's the mainnet, and in order to work with this mainnet of Astro, you should log into your account. So here I logged into my ghosted NEAR. So if you don't hesitate, you can send some money, but like here I just sorted all the DAOs that exist on Astro by the most active ones. You can change it by the newest ones if you want to check out some of the newer ones. So this one was created not that long ago, or you can just choose the oldest or the biggest in funds. Yeah, so the most active ones are the new Sputnik DAO, as I mentioned, and the Marmoj Fund. So the Marmoj Foundation. So let's look into it. So as we can see, we can see like the funds that this DAO has. So it has less than it was before. And also we can see like the proposals that they have currently. So yeah, so as I said, like somewhere in the beginning, DAOs are super transparent, and you can actually see like even the funds and the members that there are in this DAO, and of course NFTs that are super important right now in daily life. And this DAO has a lot of NFTs, as we can see. So, okay, coming back to the presentation. So how to actually grow a community DAO and what to consider when trying to grow it. There are important components of DAOs that everybody should consider. So primarily you should have some sort of group chat where you will communicate. Then there should be a treasury. So this could be either crowdfunding and or NFTs. So like you can collect NFTs around the ecosystem and grow your funds using that. Then the governance is done through DAO platform. In our case, it is Astro. And finally, the most important is to get the on-chain cash flow. So this could be either NFT drops, or when the new members are trying to enter your DAO, they should pay some sort of like fee in order to do that. So like this step, the last step, should be the most important. And in order for people to actually want to join and buy your NFTs, your DAO should be having some sort of vibes and connections that people can get when working, like when trying. So they should have some incentive to join. So that's how you can gain on-chain cash flow. So that was the last slide that I have, and happily can move on to I can pass over to Jordan Gray. Thank you.
Stephen, thank you for the presentation. That was great. And yeah, thanks for rolling with it as we took some punches there. So to shift gears to DAOcubator, and just to cover off on some more of what that program is about, which I'm really excited to share because it's a great way to get started in the NEAR ecosystem and also get involved in NEAR DAOs. Getting my screen share. Can you see that okay now? Cool. So DAOcubator.org is where you can go to get started with NEAR DAOs. And the deal with DAOcubator is that it's set up to give new people to NEAR a little bit of NEAR so that they can create their DAOs. Creating a DAO on NEAR is relatively inexpensive. it costs 5 or 6 NEAR, and you know, that's under $100 right now. So it's relatively inexpensive to get started, but just to help people get off the ground, we do little grants. And then even the more impactful thing that we do is mentorship. So we have right now a total of 9 mentors who have kind of been active in the NEAR DAO space and have understandings of like tokenomics and how to do custom function calls and all the cool, interesting, different things that you can get into with DAOs, including legal and things like that. So a lot of the common questions that you would have when you're starting any other company kind of come up when you're starting a DAO. So it's almost like a mini business school, but in a decentralized way and focused on DAOs. So to get started, it is just going to DAOcubator.org and hitting get started. And then there's a little form to fill out. And we go through these on a month or a weekly basis. And in the nature of transparency and decentralization, we'll actually be making those meetings just Zooms that anybody can join, and we'll use registration to hopefully avoid the bombing. And the idea there is to make it feel more participatory for everybody that's getting their submissions in, and also to make it feel when people can tune in and see what the different DAO structures who go over these grants are looking at, they'll have a better understanding of what needs to be filled in here for the grant to make sense. And then in turn, once somebody has kind of gone through this program of the DAOcubator, which has a few different tiers of like getting started, getting your DAO set up, getting members added to the DAO, coming up with your mission and having a growth plan and all these things. Once people have gotten through these 3 stages of the DAOcubator program, they can actually graduate to sitting on the DAOcubator Council, giving grants and also mentoring others. So the idea is truly decentralization. This was started in the second half of last year, where it was just myself and Ankit doing the granting and giving mentorship to folks. And that wasn't going to scale. Like, we had great success with it, but it wasn't going to scale. So just in the last quarter, we have brought on a total of 9 DAO structures, and we aim to double that number this quarter. So we're really excited about the projects that we see coming through, and also just the way that the people who do experience the program are excited to help pay it forward and help out new people that are coming into the ecosystem. And when people ask me why to do a DAO on NEAR, that's one of the things I point to, is just the fact that, you know, there are over 300 monthly active DAOs on NEAR. Like, there's people doing service, like Stephen did a great job going over some of the different things that people are doing. But if you need legal help, you need development help, you need UX help, there's service DAOs for all those things. So there's a ton of people to collaborate with. There's handfuls of creative DAOs, people doing different creative initiatives, music labels, and visual arts projects, organizing group shows, things like that. So it's just an amazing community of people that are actually like using DAOs. And it's not all like Web3 native people. There's also, because NEAR is so easy to onboard to with the easy wallet drops and you know, just getting a human readable name off the bat, we've had great success with getting folks who are from the Web2 world onboarding and understanding the value of DAOs. And a lot of those are already acting in a communal way or a cooperative way. So they get that like co-op model and how DAOs are important from that point of view. And they're like, oh, now there's software that's modeled in the way that we already work, and we can adopt this. And that part is easy for them. And they just have to get over that hurdle of like getting their wallet and understanding how the voting works and things like that. So there's in addition to like a bunch of kind of like more technical services and things going on, there's also a lot of like real world folks that are doing things like Unchained Fund and just like local co-ops, grocery co-ops, things like that, being built on Astro. So showing that off. And then another way to get involved, we have like a couple events that happen every week. We have the DAOcubator webinars where we go over some specifics of like just how the mechanics work of Astro DAO, how to do custom function calls, things like that. And then we also cover off on topics that are like really commonly asked about, like the basics of tokenomics and just kind of like lessons learned, best practices, things like that that happen in those webinars. So those are great like learning resources. And then kind of more informally, we have NEAR DAO demo days every Friday. If you're doing something cool with your DAO, or you have built some software that your DAO interacts with, or you've come up with like a new custom function call that's really nifty, all those kinds of things get shown off on the NEAR DAO demo days. So if you want to stay abreast of like what interesting things are going on with DAOs and what possibilities you have with your DAOs, checking out the NEAR DAO demo days on Fridays is a great place to plug into. And we also on Tuesdays, we do NEAR DAO like dev office hours. So if you are on the more technical side, you're getting into the particulars of how to implement different kinds of governance with Sputnik contracts and things like that. If you're really digging into the contracts or you want to contribute to the Astro DAO UI, then the dev office hours are a great place to go. Also for Astro DAO, whenever you're working with the blockchain, you'll wind up having to like get the data somehow. And that usually means working with an indexer or something like that. For the DAOs on NEAR, we actually have a middleware or like a DAO specific indexer set up that Astro DAO is using. So we also get a lot of those questions relating like how to make the most out of that resource on the dev office hours. So if you're like looking to do some data analytics or like study DAOs or integrate those DAOs into your own UI that you're building, that's where to head up the dev office hours. And if you miss them in real time, that's no problem. You can always catch them on YouTube and you can watch through them at 2x. So we got an archive of those things there. And then all of those, if you're looking for the URLs, if you just search for like NEAR Talkify, you'll get this community calendar that has all these things. So there's the developer office hours and stuff in there. This is also a community run calendar, so you can publish your own events there. And then one last touch point that's great to connect with the community is the Discord. So if you hit up the Astro DAO Discord, there's like a vibrant community there and folks that you can connect with. So I'll paste some of these URLs just in the chat here. And if anybody has questions about Astro, Sputnik, NEAR, etc., like that's what I'm here for, is to field all questions. And yeah, it's a super exciting, rewarding space. So it's cool to see the excitement around it from Stephen and from Baf. And yeah, thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Cool. Thank you so much for coming. Let us know in the chat if you have any questions you wish to address to Jordan or Stefan. Otherwise, nice.
Yeah, I dropped a NearChain NFT in the chat. I guess for the folks at home or watching in the recording, I don't know if they get the chat, so I think I can just share the QR code for this. Let's see if this works. It's created with the Satori Creator Studio. And this is an awesome tool. If you check out Studio Client, if you're looking to onboard people to NEAR, this thing is really great because you can generate a QR code like this that lets you, anybody can scan that QR code and you can ask them to verify with like their email address or their TikTok or Twitter or something like that, just so that it doesn't get like drained instantly. And when they hit that, they can make their own wallet, pick out their name, and they get an NFT. So I've been loving this Creator Studio resource for being able to quickly onboard people. So yeah, it doesn't look like any questions in the chat. Okay, difference between V3 and V2 Sputnik. Yeah, so the V2 code for Sputnik was released about a year ago. So since then, there's been just like a series of like small upgrades and security fixes and different things that haven't made their way to mainnet yet. So that was the main thing for V3, was just like getting all of that wrapped up and actually shipped. And in the process of doing that, we also put the V3 code through a security audit with Halburn, which is a well-known security firm in the Web3 space. And they didn't find anything major in their audit, but they did find some like little Rust things. So all of those remittances are included in the V3 upgrade. And then the final like really big thing that we have to make sure is shipped as part of V3 is NEAR is going through a protocol upgrade this month where deploying contracts will cost a little bit more than it did previously. And to make sure that the DAOs will be able to upgrade in the future, we had to change a hard-coded value of like how much it costs to deploy a DAO to be a variable so that whenever things like this happen in the future, the DAOs won't be stuck. So that's like the main thing, was just like making sure that the upgradability of the DAOs is preserved into the future. There's a bunch of like fun stuff that's about to ship in the Astro UI, like being able to launch your own token and adopting that token for token weighted voting, things like that. And yeah, so regarding the contract price change, previously it was just the storage that was being considered when deploying contracts, and the compute associated with it wasn't being accounted for at all. So it's a very small adjustment. Previously, it cost like 5 NEAR to deploy your DAO. Now it's going to cost like 5.4 or 5.5 NEAR to deploy your DAO. So it's not a significant change, but it's just enough where, because it was hard coded in the original V2 contracts, we definitely need to get that update out. And that's actually one of the things that I like about NEAR and the way that the protocol has been upgraded in the past, is that it's very pragmatic. The core team of developers behind NEAR have worked on global scale databases in the past, and they're really, more so than being interested in pumping the price or anything like that, they just want the network to be usable. So last year, there was already a vote to decrease the cost of storage across the chain, which was like kind of the opposite move of what's happening now with the price of deploying contracts going up. But like across the board, we were able to have a vote where everybody decided to decrease the cost of storage. And part of that was that the estimates for the storage had previously been like very conservative, and that estimation got better. So we were able to reduce the cost of storage overall because the estimations improved. But then, you know, things happen also like, oh, if we want the chain to be sustainable, we should also account for compute when deploying contracts and things like that. And that's why there's this like small change in the cost of deploying contracts. So it's great seeing how quickly the core development team and the community is able to move on these things to keep the network running smoothly. And like, I see that as a strength. Ethereum, on the other hand, is like very deliberate and slow moving, and it's even more decentralized. So like that's also a strength. So it's just kind of like picking your flavor of how you want things to work for like the chain that you're calling home. And I think that with all these options, like there will always be multi-chain. Like I see it being a multi-chain present and a multi-chain future. Each one has its strengths and its reasons for being the way it is. And I think that that's the great thing about decentralization, is you don't have to even stick to one. As bridges are being built between Ethereum and NEAR, and you know, it's not possible to swap tokens between even like Solana and NEAR. Like the idea of having a virtual computer no longer means you're stuck on that one virtual computer. They're becoming networked, and I think that that's going to unlock like even more possibilities. And talking to other DAO people about this is super exciting, because the DAO people tend to be like really into the idea of being able to share services across chains, and it doesn't matter where your DAO lives. We're all in this together and cooperating and working on the future work together. So love the DAO space and all the possibilities that are being unlocked here. I guess that got kind of off topic from the change in price of the smart contract. But yeah, any other questions or anything? Here's the NEAR Chain NFT you're missing out on if you didn't scan the QR code. All right. Well, I guess that's it then. I'll stop sharing. And yeah, thanks again for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. And it was a super insightful session despite some perturbation. So yeah, thank you so much everyone for coming. Do you have any last words, Stefan?
I can only say thank you for having this opportunity to present today. And thank you, Jordan, for answering the questions that I have.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'll stop the meeting then. Thank you for coming.
Great. Take care.